everybody. It is Libby again with Fearlessness. What is fearlessness? It's that underlying grit that empowers us as entrepreneurs to forge ahead. Even when hope seems distant, it's the courage to walk through those fires of hell, knowing that we're going to come out not just stronger on the other side, but better. Stay tuned and learn how to get fearlessness. I'm your host, Libby DeLucien, and today our host is DeDee. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, thanks so much, Libby, for having me. I am delighted and honored to be here. And yes, I am DeDee Cai, founder of Fit to Profit. I am also a mom of two, proud mama of two. I have a 7-year-old girl and a 4-year-old boy. I am a yoga enthusiast. I love everything health and wellness, and I am proud to say that I am a self-development junkie. And entrepreneurship hasn't always been in my blood. I basically fell into it, but for whatever circumstances it was, I haven't looked back, and I'm so proud to be a small business owner and to have the business I have right now, doing what I love and also creating impact at the same time. Talking about being fearful in running a business, I can name it all for you. So I'm excited about our conversation. So thank you very much for having me.
Awesome. I was reading over your bio and love some of the things that you're working on. I love the self-development junkie statement. I think to be a good business owner, I think the scariest thing for many of us is just understanding ourselves first. And I think that scares a lot of us. But I want to hear about Fit to Profit. What is that? And why did you start it?
Yeah. So, Fit to Profit, we believe that wealth and prosperity and fulfillment is built from the inside out. Fit to Profit, we believe in the CEO being physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually fit. We can't run a successful business in silo, nor can we just do it with just full grit and strategy. It takes a mindful, intentional, and holistic CEO to sustain a business and to grow and scale it. So we stand for Fit to Profit. Fit could be you being fit in all levels and or focusing on one of the things that you need to thrive. And then profit could be personal and also both professional. So Fit to Profit was not formed initially, but based on my experience working with clients where I just fell into business development. And you'll hear more about the story about how I got there. But truly, because I came through so many clients who are just really struggling with just staying in the work, right? Continue to follow the plan. The strategy always have been great, but they are their biggest enemies. And they're not really doing what it takes to take care of themselves so they can do the work. So we find that mindset is 100% I want to say, underlying success for all the entrepreneurs who choose to go that route, just as much as focusing on strategy. So after 5 years of coaching client on strictly business development and tactic and strategies, I realized that the mindset side of things is just as important or even more important. So that's why when we rebranded to Fit to Profit, it was from all levels holistically. That's the reason why we are so passionate about taking care of ourselves and especially teaching the CEO to have the right foundation to do that from the inside out.
I love this topic because you said it's hard to stay in that. Like, even if you have the best strategy, I think it's where a lot of us, entrepreneurs get burnout. Like, so if you're listening and you feel like you're burnt out, you're probably mentally not fit. Like you're doing too much. Mm-hmm. It's like mental exhaustion. One of the best signs for me to know that I'm struggling is when I lose those visionary, innovative ideas. Like, that's gone. It just feels like blah. And you think to yourself, oh my God, I used to have so many ideas. I used to just be so excited and innovate. And now it's like, oh God, like I have to roll out of bed and go to work or deal with issues. For me, that's like my first sign of being mentally unfit.
Yes, absolutely. And you would agree too, right? Like it's on all levels, but for entrepreneurs, it always start with the mental side of things first, right? Like when you're not getting up in the morning, you're not excited, you're not passionate, everything feels like a dread, definitely. And then that gets into your body and then you're not energetic, then you're not sleeping, then everything start unraveling, from there, right? So, absolutely.
Yeah. And, for our listeners, when you said you don't go to bed, right? Or you don't want to get out of bed, I'd love to ask our listeners, like, what keeps you up at night? Like, what keeps you up? Because part of that is being mentally unfit, like the fact that we can't sleep. Entrepreneurs are known for having sleep disorders because our brain, we're either like, burnt out, our brains won't shut off. And a good observation is, are you sleeping at night? And if you're not, what is keeping you up?
Yes, 100%. Yep.
Yeah. And I love the momentum. So I find that the crazy entrepreneur it's easy to get in momentum. It's easy to get in it. Little things can kind of like get us excited. But
Yeah.
for us, it's so hard to stay in the
Yeah. The
momentum.
follow through.
Yes.
Exactly. Because most entrepreneurs, I agree with you, Libby, we're visionaries, right? We're starters. We're like self-sufficient. Like we're so fast to make a decision and let's go. But it's just like we lose the momentum very easily just as much because the follow through, the discipline, right? Entrepreneurship is, already, it's all about being self-disciplined. And that is
That's
usually
in your
the
mind.
downfall, right? Like downfall, because we're like, okay, let's like that didn't work for 2 days. Okay, we're gonna go for another strategy or another idea. But sometimes, or oftentimes in my experience, you have to stay with something long enough for it to work. And for you to be able to do that, you have to take care of yourself so you can keep motivated, like, keep following the plan. So,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I like that because you said it needs self-discipline. And I think that that's a huge thing with entrepreneurs because most of us have ADD as I'm playing with the cards, right? Most of us have ADD or ADHD, dyslexic. We operate, if you've ever read the book, the EPT, it's called the Entrepreneur Personality Type. We all operate on some sort of a spectrum. And that's why a lot of us maybe have learning disabilities or we didn't do well in school. Or if you did well, you knew how to gamify the system, manipulate it.
Yeah.
Um, and so when you said discipline, I think that we can work hard, like we know how to work hard. But the discipline is a mental
Yes.
game that we don't play well with.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, as far as like your history with working with CEOs, do you have any like exercises, like tools that people can use to help create that self-discipline? Like, how do you hold yourself accountable? Because that's just self-discipline. It's like
Yeah.
holding
Yeah.
yourself to something.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, first and foremost, I know in my experience, you can put like the tasks on a to-do list all day long, right? Is it going to be done or not? That's another story. And for me, the minute I realize that I have the responsibility, right? Like that's one of the really success principles that we teach is you get to be responsible, for all of the success that you have had to this point and not like you're responsible for what you have and what you don't have yet. And the one biggest piece that really taught me how to be self-disciplined is to keep my own word to myself because no one is going to sit there and tell me what to do. But if I can't take care of like if I can't stick with my word, I can't stick with my plan on a personal level, nothing else is going to work. And to do that is to take have you heard the book Atomic Habit? It's literally doing little steps as much as possible. And right now, if you feel overwhelmed, if you feel like you're burnt out, you feel like focus on one thing. Literally in my program right now, I have a beta going on right now. My people are only required to do one MIT, which is the most important task for the day, one task that is actually going to move the needle forward. And what is that? Right? And then really practicing keeping your word. and doing it. And it doesn't have to be business related, guys. Like oftentimes we think, oh, have to be business. No,
Well,
it starts with
exercise,
you
eating
first.
right.
Yes, literally. It could be like, are you committed to your greens for there? Or are you committed to drinking just one more glass of water? And can you do that? Because then in that place, you only learn to be disciplined because your system is used to that. And not only that, you build confidence from following through with your own word. If you can keep
Yeah.
your word to yourself, you can keep word to other people. Right. And so I would say the first step is pick one thing, one little thing that you can focus on and do it on a daily basis. Right now at the beginning, it's not about discipline just yet to do like quantity, like quality anything, but it's more quantity at the beginning. Like, right? Like the myth is, oh, quality over quantity. No, when it comes to discipline, it's quantity. Like how many times can you do that? During a day,
Because
or
it
how many
builds
times
up
can you
that
do it?
self-confidence that you need. Because every time we let ourselves down, and we'll let ourselves down if we know nobody's watching, oh,
Yeah.
we'll let ourselves down all day long. But what it does is it chips away, that self-confidence erodes over time to
Yes.
where we're constantly putting ourselves down because we're like, oh my gosh, why did I eat that? Like, why did I do that? Oh, I don't need to do this. Nobody knows if I cancel this
Mhm.
appointment. Nobody knows if I don't work out today.
Yeah. Well, your
Um,
spirit knows, right? Like
yeah.
I have one of my
And
coaches
that's what
always
it
says,
erodes, that self-confidence. Like it
like your
completely
spirit
erodes it over
knows
time.
when you're cutting corners or you're not holding yourself accountable. And it does, right? Like some people just don't walk around like, oh yeah, I'm just confident. No, you have to build it up just like a muscle. Like you have to learn how to follow through on the little steps. I know for me for the longest time, I trained for marathons because of that. It's not because, I want to be, running 26.2 miles. No, it's the follow through until I
So
ran
there's a
that.
date, you
Yeah.
know there's a date coming and you're gonna like, oh crap, I have to do it. There's a date. um,
Yeah, so it's a follow through that we get to train ourselves to do as entrepreneurs.
yeah. So the book Atomic Habits is great as an organizer because I have a professional organizing business as well. And so that's one of my favorite books from, and it's an old book, but it's one of those classics it's not old, but it's not like it's super new. But one of the things that I do, this is just a simple little tip to help create more accountability with some things that I've been like putting off or dreading. Um, I will schedule a great example is I literally did this today. I scheduled a meeting with my bookkeeper. We have an in-house bookkeeper. She does all of the businesses. So I scheduled a meeting with her so that I would sit there and give her the bank statements because I knew that I would let myself down,
Mhm.
but I knew that I wouldn't let her down. So we literally sat on a Zoom. This is how inefficient it is. And she just waited for me to download the bank statements, to upload them to Google Drive so she can reconcile one of the businesses. But I just kept putting it off and putting it off, and I'll do it later and I'll do it later. And it's sitting on my to do list. So I've learned how I operate and I like little tiny things
Mhm.
to create more accountability within myself until I establish the habit.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. Yeah, it's like literally I put every single thing, just like you, Libby, on my calendar. I mean, you name it, from the moment put my foot down on the ground all the way through the end of the day. And if it's not on my calendar, it's not done. So the discipline could start with that. And what's I also love too, from just the creating already the great foundation with the habit, is I call it habit stacking for anything that I resist doing. For example, I don't know why it seems so easy, but you can probably relate. Is why can't we drink enough water, right? Throughout the day. Like it sounds so simple, but it's so hard for me. I don't know why, but I now have to stack it. I call it habit stacking. I stack that with something that I'm already doing on like
Yeah.
a automatic, right? Like, and then that's how I just tie the water with it. Like literally, is it when I, for example, every single day I have to check messages from clients. Like I literally, like while I'm checking the messages, the water is next to, like literally the task next to that. It's like it's the non-negotiable tied to stacking the next habit of what it is that you're working on. So I love it. I mean, it's being so disciplined that you can work on yourself and be onto yourself. So I can't say enough when it comes to being responsible and being really yeah onto yourself when it comes to doing what you need to do.
I love that. I call it anchoring. So I want to anchor it to another habit I already have that's
Mhm.
established. So I anchor it. But I think for at least for myself and probably a lot of and that's why I'm standing up because I've been sitting all day and it's in my calendar. It's time to stand up time.
Yeah.
Um, but if you understand yourself, which goes back to mindset, right, and mental health, mentally fit. If you understand yourself, you can create the bumpers in your life like that you need, that you need to be more successful. Because I don't care if you're like Elon Musk or a small business owner, we all have the same 24 hours in a day. It's just how do we use those 24 hours and how do we have a clear understanding of like our mindset and our how mentally fit we are to say, hey, I suck at this. I need help, or I'm going to find a who, or I'm going to create bumpers because I know like I'm not going to give the bookkeeper, not going to give Bell the bank statements because I'm just going to put it off again.
Right.
um, Understand yourself and don't look at it as like a sign of failure or that you're not achieving as much as the next person that you're watching grow somewhere like on social media or a competitor. Just really pay attention to yourself and create those bumpers. You know what they are. Me and DeDee could sit here and tell you all day stories about us. We're all different. But I think creating those bumpers is a great start. And like she said, habit stacking. I do the same thing, but I call it anchoring. When I anchor to a habit already established to try to establish another one is great. But DeDee in her bio, she had said that she owned a business, a brick and mortar business, right? So all of our listeners are entrepreneurs. They're in the home service space. And I want to kind of get a little bit real or fearless and hear about like what happened with that business.
Yeah.
Um, and what did you find to be like the most difficult part of running and owning a brick and mortar?
Oh my goodness. So, first and foremost, I am so grateful to have had the experience. I built that restaurant, I mean, from scratch. It was on a field. We built every single piece of it. You name it, putting in the permits, putting in the electrical, putting in the plumbing, putting in every single thing for that. So I know what it's like to build from the ground up. And not only that, wearing all of the hats as a small business owner. And not only that, I was in my 20s.
Oh,
So I didn't have too many years of experience. I didn't have any brick and mortar experience, but I did it. And here's the kicker though. It was the most amazing experience for me. I wouldn't be here today without it. At the same time, it was the hardest experience. Well, one, because it was my first ever brick and mortar, although I had helped my mom on the backside with running her salons, but it was not the same. It's in a service industry, but it's a completely different business than restaurant. And then secondly, I didn't know where to go for information either. Like I didn't know where to get a loan. Like I had to learn everything the hard way. I really had to rely on myself. And really the hardest part was the long hours, right? Like that I was chained to the restaurant, like 18-hour days. It was again the most challenging experience, but 3.5 years in was when I realized it was not an American dream. It was more like an American nightmare.
I was going to ask what happened.
Yes, yes. And yeah, so the 18-hour days became, I remember the moment when my boyfriend at the time, my husband now, we were in the most beautiful spot in the world. We were in Venice, Italy. And we were in a cafe having the best brunch, and there was the most beautiful view with the canoes and everything. And I was just staring at the screen of my phone, waiting for someone to text or call, just trying to anticipate that I have to put some fire out. And that was the moment I was like, wow, no, this is not freedom. This is not, I was mentally wrapped up on something else when I'm physically somewhere else that I was supposed to be enjoying myself. And so, yes, no, it was hard. It was hard mentally there. emotionally as well. Although I was dating my boyfriend, I didn't get to see him. And poor man was coming to open the restaurant with me in the morning, come during his lunch break to help with the lunch rush, come after work to come help me with the dinner rush and closing down the restaurant. So it's just like I was in a relationship, but then I wasn't. And it was unfair for everyone. It was really draining emotionally. And then, of course, physically, because I was there 18-hour days at least every single day. And we were open literally at the beginning, first 2 years was 7 days a week. And then I had to close one day just to maintain balance. And then, but it was hard. It was hard. And, but what was so rewarding was because we were the first restaurant, Vietnamese restaurant in the area. So I really built a community. Like everyone knew us. And every person that walks into the restaurant or calls on the phone, I knew exactly what they wanted and what they needed. It was really sweet. So I have to say, entrepreneurship is beautiful in that way because I'm a people person and I love people. So that was great for me to see that I have my strength in connecting with other people. At the same time, I also saw the weaknesses too. Was that is the restaurant or the brick and mortar industry was not my industry. Like it's just, I envision having the freedom to travel, to do what I need to do, to be able to leverage more of my brain, my mind, than my physical body, which I was capable of. But I just knew that for me, it wasn't sustainable. So I have to say that built me. That broke me first. I have to say it broke me first because I got burnt out on the 4th year and really had to get real with myself. Had a hard conversation with my mom, who actually got me to open that restaurant with her as her business partner. So, being the only child, the reason why I said yes because I wanted to emotionally support her through her divorce. So it was her thing, not mine. But it was the hardest conversation I had to have, and I did. And at the same time, that's when I knew that something has to change and I have to do it my way. Because up until that point, right, I did it for my mom. And prior to that, I tried obtaining a corporate job and I did, which lasted for 6 months. And so my story was like, I did and follow the plan that was planned out for me, right? First generation immigrant, do well in school, be a good girl, get a good job and you'll be happy. No, flashback, I got the best job, but of course I was entry level after college. I was sitting in a cubicle, like
Yeah.
that is not my idea of what life should look like. So that was that. So I failed there. And then the restaurant, I feel like I was failing again, right? Like the second time thinking that I was pursuing my American dream and that wasn't it. And so it was a hard decision, but I did it. I had a conversation. My mom was so graceful and she said, "Hey, honey, I want this for you ultimately. So if you're not happy doing that, then we don't have to re-sign the lease." And yes, that was the moment where everything changed for me. And the pivotal moment, I would say tragedy, I guess is a blessing in disguise, was when my boyfriend proposed around the same time. I took a big step back from the restaurant and said, we're going just to focus on ourselves. And unfortunately, the week of my wedding, I lost my best friend to suicide. Literally the week of. And we buried her July 4th, and our wedding was July 7th. I share that story to share with you was because of her death made me recognize that I actually was suffering in silence. I was depressed and anxious, just like she was, but I was doing it in silence.
Yeah.
And that was a moment I vowed to myself that no one ever has to go through what I had to go through. And I have the responsibility now that if I choose life, I have to heal myself first. So
I love that.
that was truly the very moment I committed to self-development, healing myself alternatively. And up until this day, I can catch it very well the moment I'm like, okay, I'm going down and I need to do what I need to do to take care of myself mentally, emotionally, and definitely spiritually as well now. It's the 4 elements of Fit to Profit.
Nice. I love that. I resonate a lot with your story because I had a bar when I was 25 years old. I
Yeah.
owned a bar in Ybor City in Tampa. It's a huge party district. It's
Get
kind of like
out.
the
I live in
little.
Sarasota now, Libby.
Oh, okay. So I'm in Fort Myers, and
Wow.
I owned a bar in Ybor from the time I was about 25 to 28. 8 or 9. I think it was 8. Austin, I was pregnant with my 16-year-old in the middle of owning that bar. And everybody's like, "Oh, I want a bar or a restaurant." And we had light food, like tapas food. Like we weren't really food. We were mainly high-end liquor.
Mhm.
And it was the most horrible part of my life. I just remember being there all the time. I mean, in the home service industry. So now I own a residential and commercial cleaning company and a professional organizing company here in Fort Myers. I own Woot Recruit, a software. And a lot of people talk about, staffing issues. And I'm like, dude, if you think you have staffing issues in home service, try owning a bar until you're open to 4 o'clock in the morning, and you got to open again at 10 o'clock in the morning. And you have to live there because there's every form of theft, whether it's from a customer or an employee. It's just stealing alcohol, stealing tips, like customers trying to say, "Hey, pour me a better drink and I'll give you a better tip."
Mm.
So much work. I just remember, like, at first the idea of a bar was like, "Ooh, I was 25 and it's fun."
Yeah.
Like, that's going to be awesome. And then like reality set in and it was horrible. My 26-year-old, who was probably 12 at the time or 11, um, grew up in the back office of the rest of the bar for 3 years because you're just there all the time. Like you
Wow.
said, and I'm sure people own them better. I was young, like I was in my 20s.
Yep.
I've always been an organized person, but I was more of a visually organized person. But now I'm a systems person. And if I would have had those systems,
Oh,
maybe I would have
absolutely.
been more successful.
Yes, agreed. 100%. We had to learn it the hard way.
And I'm like, people are like, "I think I'm going to own a bar." I'm like, "Oh God, please don't." Like, "Oh, it's so much work. It's and staffing. It's so much work." And, but it taught me a lot. And I think it created a lot of resilience that I deal with now. And I look at like, "Oh, this is a piece of cake." Like, "Oh, this is
Yeah.
easy in comparison to what I went through." Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, I that resonates with me so much, Libby. Same here because it broke me, but then it built me up at the same time too. And I know exactly now what not to do, right? Like just like I would never, just like you would never open a bar again, right?
No.
But it's like I said, every experience, every obstacle is an opportunity, and definitely it was a blessing in disguise. And I resisted, and interestingly, I resisted being business for most of my life up until that point. But now that I do what I do and I haven't looked back since, it's like I am made to be an entrepreneur because of how resilient my personality, how innately I am a problem solver, how resourceful I am, things like that. I'm just made to be a business owner. And maybe that's why I didn't last being in my cubicle, in my
Yeah.
corporate job.
Yeah, that's funny. It's true because like I've never really been a W-2. I've always been an entrepreneur. I come from a family of entrepreneurs. Um, and so it's kind of like it's really hard for us to either follow direction or be told what to do.
Yes.
Like, we don't play well with others sometimes. Um, but you were getting into this was who
Mhm.
you are, this is why. I want to kind of shift to the next part of our podcast and talk about like what keeps you driven? Like where does this passion come from and what is your ultimate goal with Fit to Profit?
Oh my goodness, I love it. So, in connection to my story and the reason why I stepped into really self development, and which led me into coaching and doing what I love, fell into business development and coaching because I was certified through my journey to be a holistic health coach. But when I was pitching that, no one wanted to buy it. But people were more interested in my experience building my own brick and
Mm-hmm.
mortar. So people want me to teach, like, just teach me how to start a business. So that's how I fell into it. But as I alluded to earlier, 5 years in, I realized that it's not the business plan, it's not the strategy. The clients were going through the ups and downs and the inconsistency and the stagnation of revenue because they were not taking care of themselves. So since then, especially the past almost 3 years now, I've been focused on building a program that has to do anything and everything with mindset to build the entrepreneur up from the ground so that no matter if she needs to grow or she needs to scale, that she has the right mindset to do so. So ultimately, because I came from a third world country. We didn't have anything. And coming from like having to use an outhouse to where we are today, I truly believe that every single woman entrepreneur deserves to be successful. And as long as she's willing to invest in herself, I believe that wealth is built from the inside out.
Oh
And if
yeah.
she feels worthy of her own success, she's going to go after it. Right. And that's really my vision, is to touch every single or help every single woman business owner believe in that dream and going after that dream, no matter how many times, she fails, just like I have, and just keep going and really allowing fear. Literally, I have my book right here, The Overcomer, right? Like, oh, conquer your fear so you can achieve your goals, and be friends with fear. Use it as a catalyst for your success. Allow that to be a thermometer for you when you need to step into that next version of yourself, is being fearless, right?
Yeah.
To do whatever it takes to go after your dream. So that's the vision.
I have so many questions or statements. Um, one is, you had mentioned, I think so many, and someone just commented on a social media post on this, and I was talking about self-sabotage and how we do it, and I was working through this whole exercise, and people were commenting about how they, one business owner, a woman specifically, was saying she keeps self-sabotaging because she doesn't believe she deserves it.
Yeah. See, self-worth piece.
Right. And it's so interesting. I work daily on certain things to make sure that those thoughts don't creep into my mind. It's not that I don't have them, or any of us. I don't care how successful you are. They can encroach. But I work every day so they don't, because from my
Yes.
background of, many of you guys have heard about, coming from an abusive relationship, alcoholic, that verbal abuse, believe me, still creeps in sometimes. And I do things on the day to make sure that I stay focused and confident, but also like that self-worth part. And so if you feel like you're not worthy of success, I always say, and DeDee could agree or disagree, but I would say you have to go revisit whatever that history or that trauma is that's making us think that way.
100%. Yeah, absolutely.
Um,
Definitely my story has been, I was sexually assaulted as a teenager. And because of that, I always thought that I was a bad girl, right? Like I was made bad, and I was always beating myself up. And until I decided to overcome the trauma, right? To understand that is my history, and it doesn't have to define me and who I am as a person. And that no matter what had happened to me, I still deserve, I'm still whole and complete, in that, I can definitely work on it. And like I said, same with you. I have to do work and put parameters in place so that I am operating from a place that no matter what happens, I am deserving, of all of the success, and that I am worthy, even from the smallest things. From the smallest things build like the empire, right? So 100%. Your self-worth. We have a tagline. One of the taglines is, your self-worth is your net worth. And if
yeah,
you're not, if you're not monetizing, or if you're not earning the level that you want to be, that's what you need to revisit, like Libby said, right? Like really look at, how are you feeling about yourself?
yeah, I love that. And now I want to get into the versions. You said versions. And I just had this conversation with somebody. We were talking about, I'm in a bunch of mastermind groups and peer groups, and they were talking about the level of peers in the groups, and they're revenue based. And they're like, okay, if you're at a 500,000, or if you're 1.5 million, or if you're above that. And they're like, so do we let people that are at a 500,000 in with the group of 1.5 million? And some people may not like my answer. And I said, I don't think so, because the version of me that I needed to be at a 500,000 is a
It's very,
completely different person. The
yeah,
version of Libby is completely different. And everyone sees, oh my God, I see your transformation and your growth. And it's because a coach said to me one day that I will slow the company down. The company will grow, but I'm the one, if I don't grow myself fast enough,
yeah,
I will slow them down. I will slow the company down. And my goal was so big. it scared me. Like, I was like, oh my God, like I have to start working on myself. But the version of the business owner I needed to be at a 1.5 million versus a half a million is such a broad spectrum of not revenue, not a number of employees, of who you are, like the version of you. And it's funny, is I wish someone would write down the versions of what a woman, like how do you, and everyone would be different, but it's like, oh, okay, this is what I need to be at $1 million. This is what I need to be, even look like, right? Act like, dress like, to be 2 million. And I know that could sound shallow, but it would give you a target to like
Yeah.
achieve, like, oh, I need to exercise every day for 30
Yeah.
minutes. And now when I move up, because I'm dealing with more stress, maybe I need to exercise 45 minutes. Like we're all trying to figure out that version. I'm like, man, I wish there was a instruction guide.
Right, 100%. Because what's really unique, Libby, is because every one of us grow differently, right? And we have different experiences, but absolutely. I even have a client and same conversation where she's like, this is the goal. I'm like, great, fantastic, right? That's double what you did last year. Are you willing to be twice the person you were last year, this year? Then the answer is yes, you can do it.
Yeah.
And usually that's when the conversation gets real, when they're like, well, I'm like, all right, so you get to choose. You get to have a conversation with yourself first of what you're willing to do and what you're willing not to do, because the goal is just not going to appear by itself, and you're going to struggle your way there if you're not clear on who you need to be, because we're
Well, and
all
then you're
about
going to beat
being.
yourself up
Yep,
about it.
exactly.
Like you're going to
Exactly.
beat yourself up about it. And I had the same conversation with a coaching client, because I do coaching within the cleaning industry for one of my peers. I coach under her. And I had said the statement, like, this is what you have to do to reach 1.5 million. And she goes, well, I don't think I'm ready yet. I have kids. And, well, she's like, I don't think I'm ready yet because of my kids. Like, she has young kids, and I totally understand. I said, I totally understand. But this is one thing, like, I wish that more women would understand, is that your business does not care that you have kids. Business has no feelings. Like, it just continues to evolve and move. It doesn't care if you have kids. It doesn't care if you're having a bad day. Like, it doesn't care.
Yep.
And that sounds insensitive, but it doesn't, because our competitors, and men as well, don't have some of the same issues that we have, and they can move faster sometimes. And it can seem like it's not fair, or it's different, or there's a disadvantage. But it's not about your kids, because I built a lot of these businesses with Austin and Yaya. My daughter's 6, and I built a lot of them with them around. And it doesn't care. It's just, how do I figure out the balance between the two? What percentage of my life, if I'm willing to invest here and here, and then we can like hit the ground running. But I love that question, because she said, I can't do that. I don't want to do that right now. And I said, well, that's great. But then we know we're not going to hit 1.5 million, probably. But we can focus on something else like profit. So I love that topic. And then lastly, I want to ask, you had said you started as a holistic
Health coach.
health coach. What exactly is that?
So remember how I said that I realized I was actually suffering in silence with
Yes.
depression and anxiety. So which led me into taking a big step back to take care of myself on a physical level first, right? So I started exercising, I started adding mindfulness, and I started learning about nutrition, which led me into enrolling myself in a holistic health coaching program, just with the intention just to learn from me. But what I discovered was this whole coaching industry from it. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is incredible. And holistic health is exactly what Fit to Profit is built upon. It's really looking at your health from all angles. It's not just being physically fit. It's not just exercise. It's nutrition. It's mental clarity, right? It's emotional support. And then now, last but not least, the spiritual component to it. Because you may or may not agree, but I really truly believe I'm super spiritual. And this whole entrepreneurship thing is a spiritual experience. We cannot do it alone. Whether you believe that you're connected to other humans that can help you, your mentors, your coaches, whoever it is, we're all part of a bigger puzzle. and that we're not working in silo. We need to operate as a whole and support each other. And just like what you're doing to Libby, this podcast not only is serving you, serving me, but serving the listener, and then whoever is going to come in contact with the listeners. So we get to be a part of this whole big cosmic thing that's moving around, right? It's a spiritual experience for all of us, and we get to connect to that at the end of the day, right? And so holistic is that. It's exactly looking at entrepreneurship or health and wellness from a very wholesome perspective, and really incorporating everything into it, and not just one leaving the rest. And just like we are our business, every small business CEO is the business.
I love when people are like, how do you achieve work-life balance? I'm like, I'm a certified organizer and time management coach. And I'm like, that doesn't really exist. You can't manage time. You can manage your time, but you can't manage time. We can manage our energy, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we can't manage something that we don't have control over. And once we understand we cannot manage time because we can't control it, but we can manage our energy and where we choose to put it, will change your life. I love, though, that how you said a lot of entrepreneurs put themselves in a silo, and we do. Entrepreneurism is so lonely. If you don't have a peer group, a coaching group, it's so lonely because you're interacting with your employees all day, or you go home and you interact with your kids and your spouse. And if that's not healthy, there's no way you're going to make it over here and this is going to be healthy. Too much risk, too much drama, anxiety, stress to come over home and have to deal with that again.
Yes.
So I'm all for the holistic approach to business. When my businesses took off, DeDee, it was because I focused on me. Not strategies or like something, like it was because I focused on me first, be the best version of me so I could be the best leader, manager, mom, wife, and get what I wanted out of the business, but also it's not get what you want, but it is from your people, because you understand yourself and then you understand how to communicate. Because we're not the easiest people to get along with. When I say we, I mean entrepreneurs.
Absolutely. And that's exactly it. When my business really takes off was when I completely zero in on the 80-20 that we talk about. Is 80% of business is all mindset and self-development. 20% is strategy.
So before we wrap up, do you have anything exciting coming up? Anything you're working on you want our listeners to know? And we can make sure to put the links in the show notes.
Yes, I am so excited, as I've shared, working on the program that's going to be launching this fall, especially the beginning of next year. We call it the Entrepreneurship Mindset Mastery Program. It's a boot camp 90 days program where we go in there, teach you all of the tools that you need to handle all of the mindset barriers that you have when it comes to being an entrepreneur. Not only that, hold you accountable on a daily basis to do what you need to do to move your business forward. And last but not least, based on my experience where it comes to the self-worth piece, is that each and every one of us has to heal our relationship with money.
Oh, yes.
And in the program, we get to focus on that too, teach you how to feel worthy and understand the relationship you have with money. So that way you can create that, in your life, in your business. And we have a way to not only teach you the concepts and let you understand it on the intellectual and conscious level. I am also getting trained so that way we can work to help you rewire some of the old limiting beliefs, so that we can shift and upgrade your system to abundance and prosperity, and not only that, deserving of every single thing that you ever wanted in your life. So that's what I'm super excited about, Mindset Mastery, that's coming up this fall. And it's we're on a mission, to teach every single businesswoman to be successful, whatever that looks like. Right now, our focus this first round is going to help everyone who haven't yet hit that first 6 figures, because I know in my experience, the first 600, 100,000 to 500,000 is all mindset. It's even more mindset than when you hit that like 250,000 to 500. That's like cruising. Like that's like, how to already get there, so you know how to grow it. But it's like the first hump is the first 6 figure and then beyond. So that's what I'm excited about.
mind training. I went through a few exercises. And for our listeners, if you haven't done anything like that, I highly recommend it. I went through one with my husband as well. I did one by myself, and then I went through one with my husband. They're very interesting exercises to do about like, what is your relationship with money and where does it come from?
Yeah.
Um,
Right.
it's a great exercise. And as far as, I was going to say something else and I completely forgot what it was. um, but so that all sounds exciting. Love the money mindset. I know what it was. Do you think women have a harder time than men understanding their relationship with money?
I wouldn't say we have it harder to understand it. I think on both levels, I think we understand it from a very intellectual level, but women have a harder time because remember, we just don't have a role to play that we do now this whole entire time. It's new, right? With us voting, with us working, with us, doing all the things and it's allowed to do certain things, that's really new. So we have to upgrade, right? Our mindset with the new era of like, yes, I can do these things. And for that, I deserve to be paid just as much as the men. Like why? And not only that, some of us women are even more talented and more focused and
We're
more
all more
driven.
talented.
And
What are you
even
talking
I
about?
know, right? I'm biased too. We're greater, better leaders than men, right? Like just because that's how we were created. We are created to be nurturers and builders and uplifters. So yeah, so it's like it's just the again going back to mindset. I'm like may sound like a broken record, but it is exactly that. It's just upgrading our mindset system to where I can do these things because I am worthy of these things. And that's why the women are doing these things. Like the women are to CEOs or whoever she wants to be, is because we are capable, not because it was handed to us. No, it definitely was not. We had to work hard to prove ourselves to be here, and so we just need to own it.
Absolutely. I have so many thoughts on this women in business topic. We could go on for another hour. Like
Right?
I
We can
find
just log in.
myself either underplaying my femininity or overplaying it, depending on like what part I'm supposed to be on, or like, oh, should I put a dress on so I look like a girl? But then I'm like, but I don't want to act like a girl. Um,
Yeah.
so I could go forever on this, and it has nothing to do with the men necessarily, and everything to do with
Yes.
like childhood stereotypes and how you're raised. And I'm half
100.
Mexican and half Native American, and it's like you're supposed to act this way, but I'm supposed to be
Yes.
taken
Right?
seriously. So like I said, I could go on for a whole nother hour on that topic, but we need to go ahead and wrap up. DeDee, I want to thank you so much for being a guest on the Fearlessness Podcast. And I want to thank our listeners for listening. And if you want to find more episodes like this one, just go to thefearlessness.com. I also want to thank our sponsors, Woot Recruit, which happens to be my own software company, for sponsoring. I don't typically dress like this on the podcast, but I had to do an actual demo. So that's why I put Woot Recruit stuff on. I had to do one earlier. I usually look much more stylish. But guys, that's a wrap into the heart of fearlessness. Please remember that every step we take is a move towards our own strengths and courage. Keep walking through those fires, because on the other side lies a version of yourself that's unstoppable. I'm Libby, reminding you to embrace your fearlessness. Until next time, stay brave, stay bold, and keep pushing forward.